You're live. Welcome to YouTube. Hello, greetings. Today we're going to be talking about something that's not whiskey, but gets paired with whiskey really often. And so we're going to talk about both whiskey and this thing that it gets paired with. I'm assuming this is live, even though I just see a black screen and it's making me really nervous. So, uh, yeah. So this is my old Tupperware, and then I have a new Tupperware, and we're going to talk about both Tupperwares because we're just going to take everything from a beginner perspective. Let's do this. Don't you test this stuff?
Yeah,
You can
I do.
monitor
I do.
using the monitor. Oh, if you use the monitor out for the output, you should be able to hear it just fine.
Yeah, that's why I'm
So if
like,
you can hear it, good.
yeah, we'll see. But yeah, so yeah, we're going to take a different route today. We're going to be talking about cigars because I guess Wally wants to share some more knowledge as well, and plus it gives us a perspective into other things that people pair whiskey with, like a beer or cigars or chocolate and so on. So yeah, I'm Drink Caveman. This is Wally. I'm assuming there's gonna be some cigar people that never watched us before. So
Or we don't have the chat up and it's difficult to talk to people in the chat.
sure.
But this this is a
Wait, where's the
whiskey
chat?
show. So what you can do, I don't know, I'd hit that restore chat button. Hey, what's going on, Tol? What's going on, Christian? What we can
What's
do
up, man?
is you can tell me what's in your glass.
So for me,
The whiskey show.
we're gonna talk about this a bit later, but it's one of my favorite to pair with cigars. It's Irish whiskey, a Powers
Gross.
Dunlane, 12-year-old. Very easy to light. It focuses more on the cigar than the whiskey. So yeah, that's what's my
Which
glass.
is good. Some whiskeys are delicate and some cigars are delicate.
All right.
What's up, Shimon? Votary, what's up?
Yep.
In my glass is 77 whiskey. I was just talking about it the other day, so I
Yeah.
couldn't resist. Yeah, I
Posted
was
about it
talking about.
yesterday, right?
Yeah, I thought it would be a good topic actually one day that we could talk about a bunch of craft distilleries, especially for like Christmas gifts and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
we'll get around to it.
Alrighty. So, what kind of caused this question that popped up in you? You want to kind of explain to
So
people?
I
Actually, wait.
posted a picture.
Do you have any new bottles?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right.
I don't think so.
Anyway,
What?
it's a whiskey show.
No,
always have new
not
bottles.
that aren't Christmas gifts.
Uh.
I did buy some Christmas gifts.
Ah. All right. So, yeah, let's jump into topic then, I guess.
Ooh, next week we should do a Christmas episode way too late in the season. It's already December 3rd. So today's topic is going to be cigars because I posted a picture of my Tupperware, which I'll just show you guys right here. I'll take the lid off. Actually, I'll leave the lid on to show you guys how this all works. So I posted a picture on Instagram of my Tupperware, which yes is a Sistema, whatever this is.
Yeah.
So this is a magical Tupperware. Inside, I just use one cedar tray as opposed to what Charles does, and then the cedar tray. Yeah.
But yeah,
That
so
helps keep moisture in there, and then you got a bunch of cigars. I keep a hygrometer in there, and then on the bottom of this whole thing, because Steve asked about this specifically, I keep 4 Bovita packs.
yeah, so let's talk about why I use a humidor, right? So first, cigars are a living thing. It's a leaf. It's grown usually in more I want to say tropical climates. It's probably the best way to use it.
Generally,
And yeah, so it's a living leaf. A lot of things a lot of flavors that you get out of cigars usually from the oils that come off the leaf. So if it goes into a too dry climate, the oils kind of dissipate, so you get more of like a broken leaf. So if you've ever had people smoke cigars and leave their cigar in like a golf bag or something like that, they break apart. That's usually why, because they're drying up. Then you have other issues where if it's too humid in a place, especially like in the tropics where humidity is a big thing, that you get soggy
mold.
cigars, the mold, and they can't light up. So humidors to kind of seal,
Regulate.
regulate the cigar, while the Bovita packs is a two-way membrane which gives off humidity or sucks in humidity depending on where you are. So that's kind of what those do.
Yeah, they're magic, like your girlfriend. But no, what they usually do though, if you use Bovita packs for other stuff, like in the guitar world or anything that needs humidity regulated, they do like a relative humidity regulation, which is pretty cool because then you can have like a Tupperware box that's sealed, and then you can have the amount of humidity inside of there regulated.
Controlled, yeah.
With it, I mean, they're just essentially filled with distilled water, and then use a small membrane to let water flow based on the relative humidity, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and then a quick
I'm
tip.
sure it's based on the size of the holes.
Quick tip for most people, using a 69 Bovita pack or something that holds around a 69 humidity is kind of the best even keel. People usually go rule of thumb of 70 degrees heat with
70%
70% humidity. So that's kind of
Although
a
I
rule
did
of
learn
thumb.
recently that apparently the temperature is the bigger part that helps towards aging
Yes, that is
and less
correct.
the actual humidity, which is interesting. But if you guys have never smoked a cigar before we get into a thousand other details, I just want to say one thing really, really
Yeah,
quickly.
sorry.
You don't inhale. And I know that sounds weird to anybody
Yes.
who smokes cigarettes or anybody who's never smoked cigars before, because I went from no smoking anything, no cigarettes, no weed, none of that stuff, never smoked anything in my life, to like literally smoking one cigar a week.
Yeah.
Or the first three cigars I had were in the same night while I was camping. Um,
Yes.
so
Definitely, that's the number one thing that people, especially like you
hey,
said, the smoking world, um, do not inhale.
yeah, but like then if you don't inhale, what do you do? So this is what a friend of mine told me. It's like sucking through a straw. So imagine you're drinking through a straw and you're pulling everything into your mouth and then you're blowing all that stuff out.
Yeah,
It's just like
that's a good
that.
analogy.
So you're essentially using a straw to draw all of the flavors from the cigar into your mouth, and then you're blowing out all the smoke.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, it's a good way.
That's all there is.
And then
Awesome.
if you want to go to more advanced part, there's a thing called retrohaling,
Retrohaling.
where a lot of people say it's kind of like swallow the smoke because it comes out of your mouth. That's kind of the best way to do it.
That's so that retrohaling is the same thing I tell people to do when they're actually tasting whiskey,
Yeah.
which is when you're about to drink,
Mm-hmm.
also open your nose. So you're breathing in at the same time, and it's literally helping you to retrohale automatically by pushing all of the flavors and all the aromas back up through your nose.
And I guess the hardest thing about that is the fact that a lot of people don't want to, like, I don't want to say swallow, but get the smoke back there because they're worried that they're going to inhale it. But yeah, the best trick that I've ever done was basically trying to swallow it and then push out through your nose. You get that.
Oh,
So
do we have a question of the day? Also, have you guys ever smoked cigars? Tolv, Christian, Rotary, Shimon?
I was talking about pairing whiskeys and
Oh
stuff
yeah.
like that.
Oh, there's the question of the day. That's
Yeah.
perfect. And then if you guys have, yeah, do any of you guys actually smoke cigars? Now I'm curious because maybe you guys are the wrong people to do this. Maybe you should have done an Instagram live
No,
stream,
that's fine.
but too late
Yeah.
now.
No, so yeah, so basics. So you got your cigar.
Basics.
You want to go through some of the different things. So to help you guys out, we have a few photos that we can share. Let's talk about cigars. So one of the hardest things that when you're going into the cigar world from like another hobby like a whiskey world and so on is shapes and sizes. So as you know, with whiskeys,
Gross.
we have ABV, we have different kind of
Santa Cruz.
casts and so on. Cigar shapes is one thing that everyone gets confused about, and to be honest, it's a personal preference. It's whatever you feel comfortable with. Most people in the U.S. they start at a robusto size 5x50, so 5 inches by 50 ring gauge. Ring gauge is another thing you're gonna hear about. Certain cigars they have specialty ring gauges, so that's just basically the thickness of how round it is.
The ring gauge is just a measure of how many 64ths of an inch it is.
Yeah.
So 32 ring gauge would be half an inch wide. 64 ring gauge would be 1 inch wide. Anything above it, you keep going up in the 64ths, and vice versa. So if you have that, like there you go.
So, yeah,
There you go. That's all it is.
basically,
Ring gauge isn't some magical thing. It's just an inch broken down into 64ths.
and if you're ever
dang,
starting
thanks,
out, best thing to do is just go for robusto. It's probably the most used size in cigars in the U.S. That's where I would start off, and then you start
Yeah.
to feel around. Maybe you want something longer, with more wrapper to filler, and so on. So best advice: start with a robusto, and then move your way up or down.
I really should set the autofocus on my camera because the next part that I want to show you guys, like, because like, how do you smoke the cigar, right? So let's say you
So go smoke.
got the cigar, you pulled it out of your plastic wrapper, like, what am I supposed to do with this thing? So if you look on the back of a cigar, and like, I don't know, hopefully Charles's camera will focus, but like, if you look on the back, you can see these pieces of wrapper that have gone over the top, and they're called caps, and they're usually more than one. Usually there are two. Some are triple capped, but so I've heard two, and I don't know which of these is true, but I've heard two stories about caps. I've heard one that if you don't have any way to cut the cigar, you just rip off the top cap,
That is
and
correct.
then you can start smoking the thing.
You can peel the cap off.
That's what a lot of people do. And then
Most
two,
people at the factory do
between the first and second cap is where you're supposed to, like, if you have a cutter, this, a regular cutter,
Yeah, they
you
call
just
that-
get through there, the first and second cap, and then cut it, and that's how you get it to come off.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, you're essentially opening the whole back end of the cigar that way.
And if you're getting into cigars and you don't have a cutter and you don't want to invest in a cutter yet, a lot of the cigar, what are they called? Humidors, cigar shops, brick and mortar shops, they'll have a community cutter there.
Oh yeah.
So you can pre-cut your cigars and then you can bring them home. So always remember that. So let's go off cutters, right? So first, what Wally showed off is called the guillotine cutter. I
Guillotine.
have something
French.
called the perfect cutter, which stops you from overcutting a cigar. So a lot of people will cut past the shoulder, and then basically you're wasting tobacco. So if you are a beginner and you're going to invest it, best thing to do is get one of these perfect cutters. I think they're about 20 something bucks, so not that bad. But once you get into the groove of things, you might not like an open draw, which is what that's called when it's a full cut. I personally like a V cutter. So this is a Calibri V cutter. It's basically the same thing, but it gives off a V shape. You guys can see it. It narrows the smoke that goes into your mouth. And for me, it gives me a cleaner draw.
It makes the back end of the cigar look like a penis. Toll, feel
go.
free to interject at any point.
Yep.
And Kevin, I have a friend who's a model who works at Ashton Cigar Bar. It's weird that you mentioned that place.
And then the last but not least is the punch. I personally don't use it, but a lot of people use it for our larger ring gauges to get them a cleaner draw. So it's basically you put it into the cigar, cuts a hole.
Yeah, the draw is the backside of the cigar. So what you're doing is you're changing the way that you're able to breathe air from the front end of the cigar where the fire is, the cherry, all the way back through the cigar. So if you have like that cigar in the picture that you can see, over there.
Yep.
That's all the way, that looks like the weird triangle. Like if you just cut off the barely end of the tip, it's still going to get concentrated into a small point, no different than like a punch. Oh, no, it's gone. Yeah, back at the cap. And then like if you have a cigar and you do a cut like a guillotine cut, you're going to have a draw that goes across the entire cigar, but doesn't come to a single point. Instead, it's going to just draw across and come in your face and come in your mouth. It sounds weird.
And some cigars, like, so there are other cigars that we have here that are more of a different style. Some have pigtails. Let me try and get one of those.
Yeah, those are weird.
So there's some that come with pigtails.
Oh, actually, I had a couple pigtails.
You have cut through.
No, when you so I had some pigtails when you pull them out of the bag, like pull them out of the cellophane.
Yeah.
Which cellophane you can totally leave them in if you're gonna put them in your Tupperware because the moisture goes through that. When you pulled it out of the cellophane, it pulled the cap with it because of the pigtails. I thought that was interesting.
But yeah, so that's kind of where it is with cutters. But just remember, it is your choice if you want to do a fancy star cut, crown cut,
correct,
slanted cut. It's all in personal preference. So if someone says, "Hey, you should be cutting it that way," you can cut it wherever you, however you want. I do suggest going first a guillotine cutter, straight cut first, and then move on. The great thing about cigars is that it's depends on what your cigar you get. It's not a huge investment. So you can experiment, or you can buy multiple and try different ways. So, I personally like the V cut for most stuff. If it's a Lancero, which is a longer stick, and a longer, thinner stick, I usually use a guillotine cutter.
Nobody tells you how to drink your whiskey. Nobody tells you how to cut your cigars.
That is correct.
Wait, you're talking about a longer, thinner cigar? Maybe one of these?
Yes. Yeah. So you just picked those up recently, didn't you?
What, the Plasencias? Yeah. On my de fuego, which is weird because these are from Nicaragua because they're made by Plasencia. And Tolv just said, I love cigars from Nicaragua. What are your favorite regions? I find that I like some cigars from everywhere. My choice for cigars has less to do with region and much more to do, because I mean, there are even wrappers from like Pennsylvania, and much more to do with the type of wrapper that they're wrapped in. Like in terms of the heavy flavor that I get from like a darker wrapper, like a Maduro or an Oscuro, I find I like those a lot more than a Connecticut, which is too creamy and too light for me.
Or grassy, I would get is another one, or hay-like. So
that's cool with the Candela. I've seen that mixed before with like Claro.
Before we go into that, let's go into lighters since we went into.
Cutters.
Cutters. So next thing you would need is a lighter. Preferably a Preferably a butane lighter. So butane, it doesn't give off any odor like gasoline, like your Zippo lighters. So
all Zippo lighters.
Overall, people have a consensus of going butane. So it's a stronger flame. It's wind resistant. You can find them for $7 all the way to $1,000. So pick your poison when it comes to that. Some people see it as an accessory. Some people see it as a tool. So the reason why people use butane, like I said, is a gas problem. But if you don't have a butane lighter, I should have some here. If you ever buy a box of cigars, or different type matches, but you can get cedar strips usually in a box of cigars, and you can actually use them as basically a light. So the cedar is usually to add, I want to say flavor, add an aroma to cigars. It breathes well. It's good for humidity control. But a lot of people
Anti-bugs.
and you can get these at any cigar brick and mortar store.
Okay.
You can snip one off, light it up, and you can use the flame to get your ignition.
Your cigar lit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also other people have like larger torch flames and stuff like that, but usually I see cedar sticks or butane lighters is kind of the core thing. Yes, you do get some matches. If you do use matches, please use the long ones. The short ones will not burn long enough. And you want the is it phosphorus in the back? What is it? What is the stuff? The tip of it called?
Yeah, I think it's phosphorus you're talking about, so you can light anywhere.
Yeah. So make sure that it's lit all the way through first, and you're burning the stick and not that, because you can actually infect your cigar with that flavor. Little tip.
Gross.
Yep.
Pro tip. What do you think of the hype of fancy whiskey brand cigars? I don't know any fancy whiskey brand cigars unless you're talking about like $750 Gurkhas.
Oh no.
Which I don't understand the hype at all.
So you're talking about like was it Pappy Van Winkle has a cigar?
Oh, I bought a box of those.
Yeah, Pappy.
I bought a box of those just because I could.
Rabbit Hole. Rabbit Hole.
Yes, I bought some of those.
Yeah.
Rabbit Hole.
And like I know he's bought some
those.
of
Are diesel.
Yeah.
You're literally naming everything that I've ever bought.
Yeah. So a lot of those are aged in the whiskey barrels of those products. I personally don't get anything from them. I actually have a Maker's Mark there too. Like I've tried one already.
Yeah.
It doesn't do much for me. I think the overall flavor from the cigar overpowers it, and you can't get it.
Yeah.
But off the smell, you can smell it.
Drew Estate does a good job with it, but I think they do a better job picking weird flavors than they do for like their acid line. And not so much for like the Pappy cigars. What's the other one Drew Estate does? Kentucky Muat, the KFCs. They're okay. The Kentucky Fire Cured, the Muats.
Oh,
they're
I have
okay
one of those
too.
Somewhere. Fire Cured. Yeah.
I've had this in a pigtail. They're okay, but if you're a whiskey drinker and you're looking for something to give more whiskey flavor to it, those don't do it.
I would
and the Makers
actually get
doesn't
whiskey
do it
for that instead. It is a good concept. It off the nose, it does work.
Somebody literally gave me a Maker's one recently.
Yeah, one of those, right? But I think it's a lot more of a showpiece kind of thing. I actually prefer companies trying to make whiskey blends to match well with cigars. I haven't found one yet that's worked, like the Jost Magnus and the Dalmore. But I do think that's the right direction to go through for that. But maybe we'll talk about this later, but I personally prefer if I'm smoking a cigar, I think that's more of a thing. So I focus on the cigar, not the whiskey.
Yeah, I tend to, if I'm going to smoke a cigar, I tend to want to focus on the cigar more than.
Yeah. So done lighters, cutters.
This is a Gurkha. That was, Shimon, is Shimon still in here? Shimon tagged me. The question is, what's the quality of the tobacco? Absolutely. Shimon tagged me in a Billionaire Club post.
Okay.
So cigars are a strange thing to me because somehow cigars are automatically more classy than they're the cheapest entry into something classy that doesn't last very long. Like literally, you smoke a cigar for a couple hours and then it's gone.
Well, it's kind of like drinking.
No, you buy whiskey. It's good for 50 years at least.
You're talking about just the investment, or are you talking about like enjoyment? Because you got to think about, there's some cigars that are $30, $50, $100, and you burn. It's like burning money. Same thing with whiskey, where you buy a shot of something, and
Yeah, but I'm talking about like buying a bottle of whiskey doesn't compare, because like you're buying say you buy a box of cigars, it's going to last you say 20 hours. You buy a bottle of whiskey, as long as you're not an alcoholic, like that's going to last you a ton. What's up, one glass man? It's going to last you a huge and long time. Like,
I guess it's
don't open it, it'll last you 100 years.
I guess it's a bit different. Like you can get, so for me anyway, if we're talking about storage and stuff, like most of these boxes are 10, 20 cigar sticks. Usually half of them I save and I let them sit for a year or two. So
they can age.
Yeah. But you are right with whiskey, where if you're one person, you wouldn't be drinking all these whiskeys in a day or 20 hours or whatever, right? So
yeah, I don't understand how cigars got this giant pass for luxury. It's like with motorcycles.
Okay.
To get into motorcycles that are really, really considered high end and expensive, you're only going to spend like $25,000, and it's going to get you a Ducati that everybody wants, like the fastest Ducati out there, super sport, whatever. And it's just like, wait a minute, how is it $200,000 to get a car that people think is luxury, $25,000 for a bike that people think is luxury, a couple $1,000 for whiskey that people think is
Yeah.
luxury, but $100 for a cigar and people think it's
I
luxury.
just think it's the fact that people don't see it as an everyday thing, or most people anyway.
What, cigars
People in cigar world, they'll probably be like, I do a stick a day or so on for it.
or more? Some of these
Yeah.
people do 2 sticks a day.
But I think it's like, for one, it's kind of like people saying you're burning money, right? Like just like with cigarettes and so on. But I also think it's a craft, right? It's the investment that companies put into rollers. Like for instance, we're talking about Lanceros before, where they're these thinner type style cigars. There's only a few rollers in the world that can actually roll a Lancero. The reason being is the fact
It's
that
supposed to be like the best.
the best of the best, and you can't do mistakes on these. So like, let's say for instance, we have let's say a Robusto.
Dang.
So we
Cole's talking
have a
about-
basic
okay.
casual Robusto size here with a Lancero. So
Close foot.
the tighter and tighter things you have to go, the more likely that a roller can break it, crack it. Yes, that's close foot.
Yeah, no, stop. Yes, yes, you're right. It takes more skill to roll a Lancero or Panatella, the longer cigars.
Yes.
Absolutely. And only the best ones in the world can be made by like the best cigar rollers ever.
Yes.
No, don't put them away. Bring it back. All right,
Which
show
one?
everybody what's going on there. Show everybody both, because the other one was open foot.
Yes.
This is a closed foot. I only recently experienced closed foot
Really?
because of Plasenzias.
Oh,
Yeah,
so this is my everyday stick. This is
Yeah,
Nika
no.
Rustica.
Show everybody what's going on there. So on usually just the one end of the cigar is closed because that's the side you're gonna cut open and that's the side you're gonna smoke from.
That's
But this has a closed foot, so the bottom of the cigar is also closed. And this is weird to me, and I didn't know why this was. So I did a little bit of research and then looked it up on YouTube and then talked to some people. So apparently some of these brands, because the wrapper to filler ratio, the wrapper is just on the outside, filler's on the inside. The wrapper to filler ratio determines and dictates a lot of the flavor. What they want you to do, some of the brands, like with the closed foot, they want you to light just the foot on fire so that you can taste just the wrapper, so you can see what the wrapper tastes like by itself without the filler. So cool.
Yeah. It just depends. This one's definitely not one you want to do that with, because it's
No, the wrapper doesn't taste good.
it's a double material. It's dark as hell. So if you're new to this,
I mean,
it's gonna But
yeah, it's
yeah, no.
Everybody's different.
If you guys want wrapper to filler ratio, the reason why people want that, like you mentioned before, is you get more flavor in the wrapper. So a lot of times people will not misjudge, but will judge accordingly to the wrapper. Kind of like with whiskeys, where someone will judge it by the color. It's the same thing here with cigars. So wait, where's the cigar color? So over here on the side here, you will see Maduro is usually the one that a lot of people use here, and then Connecticut, which is the second one down there. Connecticut's are usually lighter, more hay-like, and then Maduro is more darker, richer coffee notes and kind of stuff. But you can get opposites. You can get things where it's darker, yet it's very light on the palate, and you can get some dark Connecticut's where inside it's actually heavier. So it's a little pro tip. Don't always judge it, but 80 to 90% of the time, it's usually followed by that. That's kind of the thing now.
Yeah. Tol said, what about pipe smoking? Something I never tried, but I've really thought about getting into a lot.
So for me, pipe smoking is a bit daunting. The fact that you can mix and blend tobaccos together. So like the tobacconists at the companies, they'll pick certain leaves and mix them together and make a cigar. So that's like your pre-made. But with pipe tobacco, a lot of it's shredded tobacco, used tobacco from the cigars moved over there and chopped. You can mix, and a lot of people have their own blends. So like some people, like especially the old timers, where they'd be like, "Oh, 50% is this, 30% is that, and 20% is this." So
that's not even the daunting part to me.
Together, and that part is trying to find your palate is a bit way too daunting for me.
The daunting part is packing it correctly, putting the hole in it correctly so there is a draw, doing all that correctly so it doesn't put itself out.
There's usually tools to have that. So I grew up with somebody that does pipe smoke. So they always had tools for that and stuff like that. So that never dawned. It was just the fact that
I've seen it. I've seen the tools. It just seems like a lot.
Yeah, finding your right blend where these are kind of predetermined blends, and most companies usually want to keep it consistent, like a My Father or a Padron, where they want to keep the consistency.
Absolutely.
Every time you pick up a stick, it's going to be the same. That's where I can go.
Kevin, I agree with you that port goes well with cigars. I've tried port. I've tried sherry. I've tried a lot of rum with cigars. Yep. I've tried a little whiskey, but I find myself straying away from, like, if I'm trying to pair a whiskey with a cigar, I actually don't get a complex whiskey because I'm afraid that it'll take away from what the cigar is doing. So I just kind of avoid that almost completely.
Yeah, for me, I I do more rum focused, more sweeter notes. I think that can overpower, or not overpower, but at least combine well with the smoke. Chocolate's really good as well. A lot of
Yeah,
dark
this
chocolate.
cigars
Milk
is
chocolate's not bad,
amazing.
but I would go preferably dark. That's kind of where I go.
This with
Um,
cigars are incredible. Tashi, Whiskey Wonder
those.
introduced this to
I'm
me,
surprised you
and
never
I
saw that before.
I bought 6 boxes of this weekend because I'm like, these are so good.
No, they do, and then here's a little pro tip for you guys. If you're starting out on your cigar journey and you do jump into the deep end with Maduros, kind of like with peated whiskeys, what I would do is make sure you have some sweets near you. So what happens? The nicotine kind of goes into your bloodstream. You get that nicotine high. A good counteract is actually sugar. So
Yeah,
having gummy bears or chocolates,
not my father's root beer.
yeah, stuff like that that helps with the
Straight root
sugar,
beer.
does help. So if you do feel sick, you feel green a lot of times, maybe you did inhale it. Sweets is usually a thing. I usually keep a bag of gummy bears and some chocolates with me.
I don't anymore. I want the cigar to knock me on my butt. I love a good, strong, like beat you to the ground
Yeah,
cigar.
so
Then the last one was my father, the judge, and I almost threw up all my
yeah, and
dinner.
that's
It was
funny
so
because like
good.
this is where we go. Like when I started, I'm not gonna say started, but like when I got serious about my cigar journey, Wally was like, no, you got to go Maduro route. Just like most peated people go, no, you got to try peat. You got to try the peatiest thing you've ever had in your life. So
Which is weird. 'Cause I don't like Pete.
yeah, no. So I was like, I hesitated. I did go Connecticut route. It did get me lightheaded. It wasn't for me. Just like with there's flavored cigars, if you guys don't know. So feel free to try that. I personally got actually sick trying flavored cigars. They actually want to make me vomit. So I guess I avoided that. But once I got in Maduros, that's when I started feeling what I wanted. Just like if you're a big sherry person, a port finish person, or a peated person, you'll find something. So
You're a nicotine
try
person.
yeah try a sampler. Best thing to do. Great thing about cigars is the fact that you can find samplers everywhere, unlike whiskeys where it's hard to find them. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Don't get me started on that. That's a whole different
Yeah.
issue. I still think that would do that in
So you want
America.
to bring in let's bring in the whiskey and the cigar community together. Are there any whiskeys or things that you paired besides chocolates and the rum you mentioned?
Yeah, I mean so rum is my go-to because of the lack of complexity. And
Armagnac,
so
I never
like
had
Kevin
Armagnac yet.
said in there, a standard bourbon works fine. For me, I find a bourbon that I'm very familiar with, like Eagle Rare 10 or something like that, is much easier for me to just sit and enjoy the cigar and not think about the whiskey at all, which is really, really nice. Armagnac, I think, would be
Is it too
a
sweet
little
for you?
complex and a little rustic to go with the cigar. I think I could, you know what? I'll try that, Tove. I've got some cast strength Armagnac.
Sadly,
Next
I
time
don't
I go
have
sit
Armagnac,
outside,
so I don't.
I will actually grab some Armagnac and do that. I think that would be an interesting
Yeah,
combo because
I can see
Armagnac is
Calvados. Yeah, usually
I don't
you
know
go
how to. Oh,
sweeter,
impressed.
sweeter notes on a whiskey. For me, I mentioned before, Irish sherry type whiskey, so Powers, Redbreast, something like that, where it's light. You get a bit of sweet
This is
tones.
lighter, creamier.
So that the cigar, usually I pair this with a my more Maduro, darker cigar, because then I can focus on the Maduro, but I still have a sweet note at the end. If I had the money, I would probably do it with Compass Box Hedonism a lot.
Oh my gosh, yes, I've done
This
that. It's
note is
so
amazing.
good.
The only problem is that it is pricey. So
Yeah,
give or take,
super
if you have the
expensive.
money, if that's right for you. If you're going American single malt, I actually like Westward. I actually posted this a couple weeks ago. They have an apple note that reminds me of like a Glenfiddich, but a bit stronger, more green
These
apple.
spot stills.
So yes, they have a yes, it's pot still.
That's probably why.
Yeah,
It helps a lot with the fruit flavors.
but yeah, no, it was really nice, real fruity. It worked really well with the Olivia cigar, which is more of like a coffee note. So it was like a apple pie coffee.
The
But
Oliva cigars are.
so, but yeah, no, that's why I usually go like plantation rum or Florida Cana rum. Those are the kind of the two that I play with.
Oh no. Oh no. If I'm going rum, I'm going something Dos Madeiras 5 plus
No, so you
5
know what
or
you know your rums more than I do, but that's what I have and that's what I've used. So
I did get so many rums to pick
yeah,
from.
I sadly don't.
That's funny. So Christian actually said that yeah, Calvados would work, and it's because he likes the
Yeah,
apple note.
I can
I
see
probably
that.
would. That's like, I mean,
I would go
who
more
likes
of like
brandy?
a medium bodied cigar for that one, just so that the apple note doesn't get hindered by that dark Maduro. Because if it gets super chocolate, oh, chocolate covered apple would sound good.
Dang, chocolate covered apples is incredible.
Shit, that does so good. Oh, I would do that. Had a big brain fart. I was like, ooh. Yeah. So, what about you? Anything else for
No,
pairings and stuff
that's
like
it.
that?
Actually, no, that's it.
Oh.
All I have is news.
But yeah, and so brands that I personally purchase, I like Drew Estates. They have a Liga Bravada line. I know Wally doesn't like it, but it is a strong
I have other
Maduro.
stuff.
They are a bit pricey and they're harder to find, but if you can find them, I like the number 9. This number 9 and 52 are kind of the two ones. I like the number 9. I like Oliva V's. Make sure they're the V's.
Not the oak
They're very
or
nice.
the.
You can get the Maduro. What else is there? My Father, if you want a strong peppery note, My Father's pretty good. They have a like a house style like most whiskeys. So if you like that style, you'll find something in there. That's mostly it. I have been crushing over is it Cadilli? Casadilli? Cagilli? They have a brand called Daughters of the Wind. It's a very light, creamy, almost mocha-like cigar. They are pricey, but if you can find them, they used to be called bespoke cigars. So
Oh, we didn't even talk about cigar prices because I was gonna say like anything
yeah,
under $10, maybe avoid it. There are some good things between $7 and $10, but it's under like I've noticed a lot of stuff under $10 is questionable at best.
so if
Spend 10 to $20 and you're pretty much
if
getting
I
a
can
good cigar.
spend your money right now, if you're gonna invest in a cigar, I would
Buy a
pick.
box of Placencia.
I would buy a Padron 1926.
I've had it.
Right, I would buy that
I've had a lot of them.
cigar and try that.
They're
That's
super good.
probably your epitome of everyday, not every day, but like, let's say every day, but like every day you can pick one up and you know it's gonna be the same.
Yeah, if I'm spending your money, I'm getting the Padron. I'm getting the 50th anniversary, the one you have to buy the $5,000 humidor every
Yeah,
time.
no.
And I'm smoking those daily because they're a good $50 to $100 a piece, depending on where you buy them.
Yeah,
Store picks. Kevin just said
I'm.
store picks, and it reminds me. I picked up a Davidoff store pick. So Davidoff has a lower brand, and I forget what it's called. And they did a collab with a store that I went to,
Camacho.
and no, above Camacho, but like under Davidoff. It's a
Uh,
brand I had never heard of,
Avo.
but like no, not Avio,
Hmm.
not A.
Those are the two
No,
big
they have,
ones.
they have another brand. They have another brand, and like it was an awesome cigar. Like I was blown away.
Yeah,
But store picks are like store pick whiskeys. Sometimes they're
yeah.
gonna be garbage.
That's where I would be like, they do want to push it because it's their pick, it's their flavor profile. What I would do is there's a website called Half Wheel. They do pretty good reviews. Look online for the cigar that you're gonna pick up, or it's a $8 to $15 investment. Try it out, just like we would always recommend you guys go to a
And
bar and try it out.
$20 investment. Just try it out.
Yeah, just try it out. See if it's for you. Remember, don't inhale.
Buy the single and then look for boxes
Boxes.
when Charles sends you emails where they're on sale.
No, yeah. Buy boxes online. It's always the best price for some reason. Probably it's just the volume they go through. But try it in your brick and mortar. Support your brick and mortar. Do you need a humidor at the start? No, you can get Ziplocs and
It's a block bag and a Bovita. Good to
Bovita
go.
pack. You're good for at least, I think it's like 6 months to a
6
year.
months. Yep.
And then upgrade to a Tupperware. I think the set that I sent you, and I'll try and link it below.
Is it $50?
Yeah, it was like less than $50. It was
Definitely link it all in the description
cedar
because
tray
yeah,
and
it's
so
not
on.
hard to get the cedar tray, the Sistema, and
Yeah,
like
so
some Bovita packs.
basically, I'll link this down below. It will probably be an affiliate link. So
And a hygrometer, it'll be cheap.
yeah,
It'll be like seriously $50-$60, and you can get into a Tupper door that'll hold
and then
probably 200 cigars.
Yeah, that's about
No, 100
200.
cigars. For sure.
It depends what cigars, but yeah, it'd be 1 to 2. And then I will actually have to
Yeah,
send
I'm
this
holding
to
20
you
cigars
guys.
on the bottom
Send
row
this
of
to you, Wally. It's a Butler. It's the same thing, but it's on your phone technology. It'll tell you humidity levels. So I gotta send this to you. This is yours.
Ooh.
But yeah, no, not sponsored or anything like that. But feel free to ask any questions. I know we might have said something a bit different, but
Again, this wasn't sponsored. We just had
Yeah.
this idea because you guys had such a huge response on Instagram for things related to cigars. I didn't think that was a thing. I thought everybody was pretty much like good to go, and we were just
Yeah.
here for the whiskey. But
yeah,
I mean, just
let us
changing.
know. There are some pricier cigars. There are stuff that are crazy, but you can find a cigar for yourself, just like you can find whiskey. Like I said, pro tips: bring sugar. Make
Yes.
sure you get your stuff cut. Hygienic thing: do not lick your cigar before you cut it. You share this cutter. If you ever share this cutter, do not do that because I've seen people lick the cigar first and then cut it and then give my cutter.
That's
Not
why I
cool.
don't share. What's up, Eric?
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't do any of that sharing stuff. As a matter of fact, it's funny because the people who got me into smoking cigars, I do smoke with them every so often, but I bring my own stuff. We all bring
Yeah.
our own stuff.
I've shared cigars with people. It's freaking gross, but I've been drinking it, so
Oh, you mean like sharing an actual
yeah,
cigar? Like
I've actually shared a
it
cigar.
lips gross.
Yeah.
So
That's why I
gross.
bring my
No,
extra ones now. I just because everyone's like, "Oh, only
I
try it."
don't.
I'm like, and I'm
I
like,
don't
"Oh
want
shit, I'm
AIDS.
a dumbass." So yeah. Um, and just another tip: if you guys ever do buy boxes, there is a cellophane wrap that goes on this. It can be stored for months in that, but once you puncture it, once you open it, it will then leak. So you now have to put it.
Some of them have Bovita packs in them, right?
Yeah. So this one did have a Bovita pack in it, so it can be stored, and a lot of times it's in a humidified room, so that it should be fine if you seal it with a plastic. But once you puncture that plastic, it is now open, and this one has it inside the faux bottom. And then other things, Cuban cigars, yes, they are technically legal now, but they're not importing them in such large volume. You can get them from Europe to ship to you. A lot of companies do it. I'm not gonna name any of them, but
Oh, Brickhouse Maduro is a no-go for me. You're the second person to say that too, because I was talking to somebody in DMs yesterday about that, and like it just doesn't do anything for me.
and another thing with
Might have been
I want to say New
who was it?
World non-Cuban cigars. A lot of the times the leaves are actually aged and fermented. A lot of them, like Padrones and my father's, are aged already. But if you go Cuban, they're actually non-aged tobacco. Most of the time, they're not aged tobacco. So if you do have Cubans, you might have to age them yourself for up to a year. So just be careful when you're buying
In a
that
Tupperware.
in a Tupperware. So when you do buy Cubans, a lot of people say, "Hey, save half for now, half for later." That's the reason why, because you can see the changes. So that's one of the weird things. I would ask the website or whatever that you buy Cubans from if they age their boxes, because some of them do. They buy large volumes that you can get a year-old one, so you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of why I buy New World ones, more Honduran and so on, Dominican.
Eric, we went through the Tupperware stuff. It was you. I thought so. Yeah, we went through the Tupperware stuff and about how you don't like. There's just no seasoning to a Tupperware, which
Yeah.
makes people's lives a lot easier. We're just starting from a
Definitely.
beginner perspective because it makes life a lot easier
Yeah.
for those of us who have 3 humidors sitting in the other room that absolutely none of them will hold humidity, even though we've gone through seasoning process for all of them.
Easiest thing to do.
Tupperware works every time.
Clean
That's
it
the best part about
with,
plastic.
distilled water.
Yes,
and-
correct. Distilled
and
water.
That's it. And then you just put your cedar trays in and let
Or
it
they
sink
use
in.
distilled water propylene glycol mix that they use,
Yeah.
which sticks to the wood and
Bovita
gets
packs
real
are
free.
cheap. They're $2 to $5. They'll last you a lifetime. You can even reuse them if you
Oh,
need to.
we're so over the time. We're done. We're done.
All right. No, that's like, remember we started this earlier.
I don't know how it works. I'm just
All
scared.
right.
I just see that number.
So, picture. Ugh. Alrighty. But yeah, thank you guys so much. I know this was different, but it's to help people out because I guess it was a
Totes
large...
Mullets, because we don't want people to do what I watched somebody else do the same time that I learned how to smoke a cigar, and that is throw up all over the place.
Ugh.
Eventually, you get to the point where you know how much like nicotine you want and how you want a stronger cigar, and you want to like be pushed, but you don't want that in the beginning when you're a beginner and you inhale by accident
That's
and then
where
you're just
people
vomiting
stop
everywhere.
doing it, and they get people out of the hobby.
Correct. It's just like giving a 454 Casull to a brand new shooter. It's a bad idea. So sometimes you just start with the beginner stuff, and it's a lot easier. Remember, it's like drinking through a straw, not like inhaling a cigarette.
All right, guys, and what do we say here? Deuces.
Get on Call of Duty Modern Warfare.